Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries went on TV this morning to reject the GOP plan to add work requirements to some welfare programs, calling that a non-starter. So the president left for Asia with a message of reassurance that he won't do anything of consequence.
President Joe Biden is likely to concede to Republicans on the debt ceiling deal, even though he doesn't have to. Biden is so pathetic that House GOP is openly mocking him. And if you don't believe me, you're about to see it.
But look at how House Republicans received that message.
But he also said on work requirements, he'd accept not anything of any consequence. Where does that?
Loser. I don't understand anything that has consequence. This is a senator who voted for work requirements.
This is a senator who voted for work requirements. And honestly, that is the most painful part of watching that video, because not only is it incredibly embarrassing to have a weak president who already had capitulated to Republican demands back in 2011, it appears that he is poised to do so yet again. And Cenk, I mean, it's incredible how many of your predictions and my predictions tend to come to fruition.
Yeah.
So why don't you open up the conversation to that?
Yeah. So look, I got this one right, but and we often do, and that's not bragging. I know it sounds like bragging.
No, we should definitely brag.
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah.
But guys, you get it right too, and I see it in your comments because we figured out something super simple. It's always the money. Money always wins. The rest of it is just theater. It's just theater. So it's not at all complicated. You're all gonna get the predictions right too, okay? Unfortunately, people who buy into the theater don't get it right. Oh my God, Joe Biden is gonna fight the Republicans. No, of course not, that's ridiculous. He's gonna give them whatever they want on it because both of their donors agree. They wanna make sure that you guys don't get any help and they get all of the money, not just a little of the money, okay? So, and then he said he wasn't gonna negotiate on the debt ceiling. We told you he would. Of course he's negotiating on the debt ceiling because it's not just that Biden is weak, and he is, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's mainly that he's complicit. Like he wanted to cut spending, he wanted an excuse to cut spending, and so they invented the debt ceiling thing, which since Trump didn't do it at all, like there was no negotiating debt ceiling under Trump, he should have just pa-ting, just flicked it off his shoulder and be done with it. But he wants to cut it. He voted for cutting spending throughout his entire career. He's a conservative, Democrat, but really on economic issues, totally Republican. And then they said, oh, he's not gonna do the work requirements. So we told you he's gonna do the work requirements. Of course he's gonna do it, because he wants to do it. Understand that, but he's also weak. Because that when they laugh in his face, and one of the Republican congressmen there said, loser.
Oh, God.
Because they made him accept the work requirements, and then they're rubbing it in his face.
That's right.
And do you think that Biden's gonna man up and fight back? There's a 0% chance of that. He's gonna give them exactly what he wants, because that's who he is.
Well, if you want to see weak for yourself, here's the moment from President Joe Biden's press conference that reporters were reacting to and asking about. Let's take a look.
I'm not going to accept any work requirements that's going to impact on medical health needs of people. I'm not going to accept any work requirements that go much beyond what is already. Well, I voted years ago for the work requirements that exist, but it's possible there could be a few others, but not anything of any consequence.
And here is more of McCarthy and his fellow Republicans reacting to that statement.
If he doesn't want to have something that has consequences, he wants to borrow more money from China to pay an able-bodied person who has no dependents, not even to look for a job, not even go to school for 20 hours.
And now we're seeing some congressional Democrats put out signals that they won't just swallow whatever Biden agrees to. Congressman Ro Khanna saying he'll consider whatever the president proposes, but he'll vote how he sees fit. And he's trying to redirect potential cuts away from welfare to defense, saying that is where bigger savings could be achieved.
And that's true. I mean, if they're genuinely concerned about the bloated budget and if they want to cut spending, the first place they should look is the military, where we are now spending more than $800 billion a year. And there is so much waste in the Pentagon that they can't even pass a simple audit. They have failed every single audit that has happened over the last several years. And one other thing I want to just quickly mention is the work requirements have not worked. And we have specific examples. I have some data that I'm gonna get to in just a moment. But before we get to that, and it's really important for you all to know how that works out and how it actually ends up costing the government more money, I do wanna just kind of talk about fairly recent history, 2011, when Biden struck a deal as vice president under the Obama administration with Republicans on something known as the Budget Control Act, okay? The Budget Control Act was something that Republicans demanded at the time. They were holding the debt ceiling hostage just as they are right now. And they're like, we want to cut funding, right? So that bill passed. And what it did is it led to austerity on major social spending programs for 10 years straight. And that was a huge consequence for the American people.
Yeah, Biden's been giving things away to Republicans his entire career. He also struck a deal in the Obama administration where he made tax cuts for the rich permanent. Even George W. Bush couldn't do that, but he gave that to Mitch McConnell as a gift because Biden is a Republican on economic issues. They all serve their donors, but no one in media will tell you that. Okay, so I'm gonna show you the receipts in a little bit of, so you know that we're not kidding when we say, yeah, we got this right? And I'll tell you what whether Ro Khanna and Hakeem Jeffries are being honest or not. But I want to say one more thing about how you guys can see for yourself when they're lying and what they're actually going to do, okay? So when the minute Biden says, well, we'll have to make sure that to take care of the medical needs of people when talking about work requirements, the translation to that is I'm going to give in on work requirements and I'm going to make a tiny little exception for people with medical disabilities or something along those lines so that I could save face and pretend that I had a real negotiation with them when I'm actually giving them 99% of what they want. Right. And you'll see this over and over again. And so back when Obama was going through Obamacare, progressives pushed him to do the public option. It was incredibly popular, but he didn't want to do it because his donors told him under no circumstance are you allowed to do that. And so he said, we'd like to do the public option. It's going to be difficult, of course. And I said, look, that means they're definitely not doing it. And everyone in media was like, you're again outrageous. How dare you say that? He said he's going to try. No, when a Democrat says they're going to try, that means, ironically, they are not going to try. Biden did the same exact thing with $15 minimum wage. Oh, it's gonna be difficult, but I guess we'll give it a shot. That's a signal to the Republicans, I'm ready to concede on that, okay? So, but every reporter knows this. How come they don't tell you? It drives me nuts, right? So now we go to Ro Khanna and Hakeem Jeffries. So, and by the way, when I say receipts on we were right, in this case it might be literal since looks like I might win money.
Yeah, you are gonna win money. Do you wanna go to that video right now?
Okay, let's go to that first and then I'll come back to it. So look, this is me and Emma, we're just having fun, okay? And Emma thought that that they might do the deal without work requirements because everyone on the Democratic side claims that they will not accept work requirements. Hakeem Jeffries was super clear, now the top Democrat in the House, it's a non-starter. So I don't blame Emma. But I thought, hey, you should never trust Democratic leadership. They'll never do what they're gonna say, and for all the reasons that I explained. So we had this fun little bit earlier in the week. So I said very confidently that they would have work requirements in the negotiations on the debt ceiling. You say no.
Yeah.
$100?
$100, we're doing it.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, I love these bets.
I like gambling, obviously, if anyone watches my show.
She does, and she's a great sport about it, and I'm looking forward to the $100. It's not over, by the way. Emma could still be right. Now, for example, if Hakeem Jeffries actually means a word of what he says, he could just turn around to Biden and said, I think you misunderstood me. I said it's a non-starter, okay?
Yeah.
And he's the top Democrat in the House, but he's a liar. He's definitely not gonna fight Biden, and they're definitely gonna put in the work requirements, and Hakeem Jeffries isn't gonna do a goddamn thing about it.
So one other thing that I wanted to just bring up, because I thought it was an interesting proposal, I just doubt that Biden is going to take Democrats' advice on this. But today, several Democratic senators, progressive senators, held a press conference led by Senator Bernie Sanders. And what he is arguing, along with 11 total Democratic senators who have signed this letter to Biden, is that he should invoke the 14th Amendment in order to raise the debt ceiling and just basically not allow the Republican Party to hold the debt ceiling hostage. So it's Section 4 of the 14th Amendment, and it talks about, the United States debt, the validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned.
Yeah, look, guys, it's a no-brainer. If I was advising the president, I'd tell him, don't do the 14th Amendment right away. I would say first beat the living crap out of the Republicans for
Agreed.
this. I say a bunch of deadbeats don't want to pay their debt. Look, we all as Americans believe in personal responsibility. We accrued this debt together, okay? And now they say, well, I want to be a deadbeat. I want to be a loser and not pay our debts, right? And I want to crash the entire global economy. And I want to make the working class pay for it because they're the ones that are going to lose their jobs. Go ahead, Republicans, say it. Say it 1,000 times. I do a press conference every single day. And I bash the living crap out of them politically and rhetorically, which Biden would never do because he loves Republicans. Instead, he's giving them a giant gift. And then I would use the 14th Amendment. Because that's what a strong person does, that's what an honest person does. But Biden isn't either one of those. And by the way, just to complete the thought on Ro Khanna is a good, earnest man, and I like his proposal of taking it from defense instead. Of course it has a 0% chance. Both the corporate Republicans and the corporate Democrats would never touch the defense budget or raising taxes for the rich because they serve the rich and they serve defense contractors. So that's why it's a good policy by Ro Khanna, but it has no chance of success because almost all of his colleagues are totally corrupt and agree with the Republicans.
Okay, now I want to just quickly tell you why work requirements is incredibly, it's incredibly dumb if the genuine goal by these Republicans is to cut spending. It actually ends up becoming far more expensive and does not do much in encouraging people to work because the majority of people who, for instance, in the case of Arkansas, which tried this experiment, they tried to have work requirements in regard to Medicaid recipients in the state. And it was such a disaster that the program didn't even last 2 years. It was struck down by a judge before the 2 years were up. The other thing I want to just quickly mention is we don't know exactly what the work requirements are going to be tied to. There are some reports indicating that Republicans want the work requirements tied to SNAP benefits. The other reports say that it could have to do with Medicaid. We don't know yet. And what's really interesting is that we haven't really seen any proposal from the Republican Party, just this effort to push for austerity. And remember, this is the same party that provided cover for Donald Trump, who actually blew up our budget and increased the deficit to the tune of $8 trillion. And of course, he's the one who passed the tax cuts for the rich to the tune of $2 trillion over a decade. So with that said, let's go to Arkansas and see how their little experiment went. Didn't go well. So this was research done. It's really, really good research. The title of it, well, look up Summers et al. And you'll find the research. It's open for everyone to read. But in June of 2018, Arkansas became the first state to implement work requirements in Medicaid, requiring adults ages 30 to 49 to work 20 hours a week, participate in community engagement activities, or qualify for an exemption to maintain coverage. Now, by April of 2019, a federal judge put the policy on hold, and then later it was struck down, so didn't work out so well. Work requirements did not increase employment over 18 months of follow-up, and over 95% of Arkansas beneficiaries in our survey already met the state's Medicaid work requirements or should have been eligible for an exemption. This suggests that barriers to reporting data to the state rather than not meeting the requirements themselves was the main cause for coverage losses in 2018. So they only had one avenue in which people could report their employment, and it was through the internet. And like, not everyone has a computer. There might be some older Medicaid recipients who aren't as savvy with technology. So that was a huge barrier. And in the end, it ended up costing the state more money because remember, you have to have an apparatus in place in order to do the reporting, have them report their employment in order to enforce the policy. So it ended up costing the state money. Any consideration of work requirements in Medicaid should consider administrative costs as well. Implementation of this policy cost an estimated $26.1 million, with 17% of the cost paid for by the state and 84% paid for by the federal government.
Yeah, so look, Republicans wanna paint the average man as a bum. And if you remember, Mitt Romney said the 47% of the country never wants to work. They're just the takers. Paul Ryan would say that all the time. This is not a Trump thing. This is a Republican Party thing, and it's been here for decades. Why? Because they don't want any money spent on the average American. They want all the money to go to the tax cuts for the rich. So for example, over this debt ceiling fight, people suggested, hey, why don't we take it back some of the Trump tax cuts, and then we could pay for it easily, no problem, right? They go, oh, no. So the richest people in the world should never be challenged. We should never take a dime from them. But if you're poor and you need help, you need a hand up for a second, Republicans are here to call you bums. None of the facts ever back them up. They know that. They don't care about the facts. It's propaganda meant to help their rich donors. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.